Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Ryan with Propelio. Today is a special day, as every day with Casey and myself. It's, we're very self-aware. Anyway, last week we had Carlos Reyes out of Phoenix, and we talked about systems and scaling and whatnot. And it was that was such a nugget-full episode. But every 15 seconds, Carlos is like, "Oh, you got to talk to Sal. You got to talk to Sal, my business partner. You got to talk to Sal." So guess what? We're talking to Sal, and we're in this episode. We're going to get more granular. Is that the right how you say it?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to get more into the analytics, and we're just going to get in the nitty gritty of what systems and scalings actually mean, and have a good time. So stick around, share this if you like it. That tells the internet that this is a good video. And if you think somebody in your network would appreciate it, send it to them. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Propelio TV is sponsored by Noble Mortgage and Investments, CreativeCashflow.com, and Lifeonaire.
Hey, welcome back. What's up, Casey?
Hey, how's it going?
And we got Sal. Sal, will say hello to everybody. Hello.
What's up, guys?
So
I'm honored to have you guys interview me here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I know I'm looking forward to it, but I know Casey is looking forward to it. So before we get in, I'd like you to take a minute to just tell everybody your story. And I know it's funny because I tell all our co-hosts, nobody gives a crap about you. We got to get to the meat. But when you do actually have guests that are like meat-filled, that sounds weird.
Things are getting weird.
You have the opportunity to tell your story. So tell the viewers who you are, what you do, and why you're special.
I'm nobody special, but my name is Sal Shakir. I'm a quick story. I'm a Catholic from Iraq. We ran away from Iraq from persecution and like the war and whatnot. Came here when I was 15 years old. And worked with the U.S. Army actually for 3.5 years in here. I did cars, and I still do cars. So I'm a car salesman. If you hate car salesmen, I'm one of them. And then we just decided to do, after many years, since I've been in business for 10 years, after a few years in business, I met Carlos. And it's funny how I met him. I'll get into that later. And then we just became good friends. We partied for like a year, and then we're like, let's do business together. You're a hustler, I like that. And then boom, we jumped into real estate, and then one thing to another, and here we are today.
So it seems like there's a natural, well, not natural, but a lot of individuals who are success. There's that car salesman to real estate. Do you think, and this is just kind of a tangent just for my own edification, and
it's
I wanted to say
that you say that because it's very similar. So when we first started the wholesaling, we first started fixing and flipping, and then we jumped into wholesaling, right? And when we did that, it was like, I'm like, this is so similar to the car business. Like, I can do this all day because I did wholesaling cars for the first few years of my car industry, and then I became a retailer afterwards. And it's very, very, very similar. We buy low and we sell high, right? We buy low and remodel, sell high, or we buy low and then I would sell to other. I would get the car from an auction. I would run it to a different auction, and I would get more money. Or I wash the car and put it somewhere else. Or I would take the car and take it to a different dealer and like, hey, this car is great. You want to buy it? He's like, I'll buy it, and then make my money. So it's very, very, the concept is very similar. There's other ways of getting it, obviously, not just the auction, but it's very similar. Buy low, sell high, and that's where it comes down to it. I think car salespeople and like door knockers and like insurance salespeople are great for something like this and that's why most of our people here are those guys, because they're used to know so much, and they like the no, N-O, not no, and they do so good with accepted no's, right? I've heard so many no's, and I guess I built a thicker skin to the no, and therefore I became a car salesman.
We were actually talking to Tony Robinson Jr., Tony the Closer, over the weekend, and that show is going to air next week. But we went into detail about his car salesman past, and one of the nuggets that we dropped there, and we can drop right now as well, is if you're trying to build a team, seems like the natural fit to find acquisition people are at the car dealerships because they have to grind so much, but they're not getting paid that much. So if you can get that same grind.
I'll tell you why it's actually a perfect fit for real estate for car people. Well, first of all, I'm one of them, but I'll tell you why. So we have a few car people here, and they tell us, I know how it works, the environment works there. So if you guys don't know how car dealerships work, it's usually very cutthroat. So it's like if you have like 5 salespeople on the floor or 10, it's usually they act like friends. So whoever like gets to them first and like things like that, they have some round robins they do, but like they do some spiffs where they give them cash if they sell more. But then if you do good, the other guy next to you, which is your friend, yeah, good job. With like, yeah, good job. This MF got bit, you know? So it's like very like competitive in a bad way. And it's very cutthroat. So when the guys start working here and they're like, this is crazy because one of our guys, Adrian, and when the guys first came in from the car dealership, he's like, this guy texts me. He's like, thank you so much. You're going to push me to the next level. He's like, I was telling my wife, I don't know if he was being sarcastic or being true to his nature, you know, and you know what, he was being very genuine, but they're not used to things like that, right? So in this, you put them in this environment where they're like actually comfortable, they'll actually work as a team instead of working for their own, and they do so much better.
So well, that's a good question, and kind of segueing into the whole systems and scaling. So when you do have people that come from that cutthroat environment where it's kind of underhand compliments, but it is cutthroat, how do you get them to convert? Or is there a process, or does it just come naturally? It was like, oh, cool, you're not trying to kill me, so now we can be friends. Like, is there a transition
obviously
period?
It's not going to work for everybody. It's not going to kill me. That's funny. But these guys are crazy when they're at the car dealership. I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff. Like these guys have like literally like Wolf of Wall Street stuff where they have like the white powder on the desk and stuff like that. So they would give it to people. So it's insane. And you bring them in here, but when you hire, our hiring process is very simple. I guess it's very simple because we've done it so many times. We hire based on our core values, right? So you interview a few people and we put a filter. So we have our CFO, usually, which because she handles, you know, the operations and a lot of stuff, but she interviews them first, and she has one of our follow-up managers with them, and they determine if that person is actually good for the role, and then interview number 2, that's when it trickles down to Carlos and myself. And mind you, like we're like our desk, if I turn the camera on, our desk is right next to each other, Carlos and I, so we always bounce ideas. So that's why we can't be in 2 different offices. And we would have another manager in here, and then we would have maybe like the top acquisition manager. So like 4 people interviewing this person, right? So you have 4 different perspectives at the same room interviewing that person, right? And we would probably run a sales scenario. What's your long-term? Ask about, you know, what their core values are. Ask why they want to do this. Like you can kind of find out within the first 10 minutes of the conversation or 5 minutes is what they're, you know, is it this person coming in here to work to make money so they can just all go party and do this? Like, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying, like, is that what is going to line up with the office environment and core values, right? We have certain environment in here that we like to stay on track with. And so far it's been great.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good way to hire. I think one of the best environments I've ever worked in, they had a similar model, right? We were interviewed by the staff, by people that we would actually be working with. So if ever there was an issue down the road, they'd be like, well, you hired them, you know? So I think that's some good insight on a way to acquire people to your team. I think that's great.
Absolutely.
So, Sal, I think several people who know you actually call you the data guy, right? Like you're like numbers, you're the data guy, you're kind of like an engineer type. Is that right?
Yeah, you know, I was going to be an engineer when I grew up. I wanted to be an engineer, and I kind of finessed my family, telling them I'll go back to school, and I never did.
So here you are engineering numbers instead. So it's kind of the same thing, right?
I suppose.
So
yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of your role next to Carlos and kind of what your little niche and expertise is. You said right before we went live that y'all kind of think similar, but it's a lot different. So can you kind of elaborate on that?
We're very similar, but different in one way or another. So Carlos is like that. You see Carlos up front more than me. He's like the front, right? And I was always the guy in the back. Because I did the sales up front. I did sales. I did finance. I actually even worked on the cars myself. I did all that in the car dealership. So I was the guy that was doing it all. So I never really found the good niche that I was good at, right? Because I was doing it. I was doing the numbers, the accounting, everything from A to Z. And I had someone that helps me with the finance, but still, like, I did a lot of the work. And coming into something different where you have someone else carrying it on the other side, then it gives you enough time to find out what you're really good at, right?
Yes.
So I do disposition, I do systems implementation, and other stuffs in the background, right? And Carlos does the acquisition, mainly acquisition, and maybe like employee development and like maybe team meetings, stuff like that. Even though I'm available in them, we talk, but Carlos is more of the upfront. And that's more mainly the roles. So when we first started, we were kind of doing everything, and everybody steps on each other's toes, right? The learning curve, right? And soon enough, once you have enough time to like realize what you're good at, like I didn't ever think I was going to be good at systems because I didn't know I liked it either, right? I'm good at sales, right? I'm a car salesman. I own a car dealership, right? I want to sell this stuff. But luckily I found my niche where I can sell properties, which we're going to get into that. Like we do disposition. Now we have help with Jaden Pudney and we have a couple other people here. We do straight disposition. So I just found my niche. Like we needed systems. I knew we needed structure to build our company to where it's at. I knew there was a few steps, and we learned those steps, right? Number 1 is Envision. Number 2 is build. Number 3, systemize. Number 4, delegate, and rinse and repeat. 5 is rinse and repeat. And I know this from doing multiple businesses, right? So we own 15 businesses, I believe, right now, and every one of them has the same exact process. You envision, you build, you systemize, you delegate, and then rinse and repeat. And it's very simple. But then how do you systemize and how you delegate, right? How are you going to delegate without systemizing? And, every step follows another. And soon enough, we realized that we needed something like this. And here we are. So at the beginning, because I worked at the car dealership, it would be like where I work in the morning, go in the morning, finish around some 8, 9, 10 o'clock sometimes from the car dealership. Then drive home, and in between the drive, talk to Carlos, maybe mastermind or some things. And then once we get home, I would probably work on the systems probably from like midnight or 1 o'clock, or sometimes even 3 o'clock would wake up and then start working on that until the morning. And then so the day starts and working on other things.
So real quick, I think we should go down a rabbit hole of those 5 steps and really take, maybe an extended elevator pitch on each one of those, just because we kind of flew through that. And I think that's very relevant for somebody who's either building a business, building a team, scaling up, expanding. And I think that's I think it's worthwhile to really maybe dive a little into that.
Yeah, and I wanted to just add to that really quickly with those steps that you have in mind. I think what everybody kind of battles with, especially when they're first getting started, is at what point do you know you need to systematize, and where do you begin? Like, for example, how many deals were maybe you and Carlos doing, or maybe Carlos before you joined, before you started doing this kind of 5-step process? Was it like, how early on?
Absolutely. So I believe in any business nowadays, you can't do anything half-assed anymore. Excuse my French. I'm not. So a lot of people, I think about it this way. If you're doing something, you're saying, I'm going to do it part-time, and just know there's other people that are doing it full-time, that you're just going to miss out on that much, right? And knowing that you're doing it full-time and you're not at your full capacity, that alone to me makes me feel like I have anxiety, right? Because I'm doing something, and I know I have 24 hours a day, and I have 2 hands and 2 legs, and then maybe with Carlos, then there's 4 hands and 4 legs, and we're doing X amount of hours a day. But then I know that the way that we live in right now, like the future is in the technology, right? A lot of things that we think we're talking to people, a lot of times we think we're like, it's a lot of it is sequences and automations where it feels very personal, and you have things in line where it's organized and it makes their life easier to reach you and get your business, because that's how a lot of people got my business because they had right systems in place. They followed up with me because they had a right reminder, things like that. So it starts like this. And unfortunately, in this industry, there is a lot of people, because it sounds very, very appealing. You can do this business with no money, no credit, and anyone can do it, and it's very easy, right? But so along that, I think just the programming, when people just get into this business, they think about, okay, I can do it on my own, right? I'm a one-man show. But if you just take that same mentality and then switch it into saying, okay, I can do this, but I can do it on a bigger scale where I build a company. So we have a lot of hustlers, a lot of solopreneurs, but they don't want to build a company because it sounds sexy to have, I own my own company, and I can do my own hours. But let's be honest. any company out there, if they want to succeed, they have to put in extra hours. They have to do this, and or you're going to be washed out. You're going to be wiped out. That's simple. So I believe systems is the cutting. The cutting edge of systems is going to put you over, the curve, and that's why I believe our companies has scaled. As far as going into step number one, obviously envision, being a visionary, envision what you want to do. Obviously, wholesaling sounds very appealing. Buy low, sell high, and it's simple. You don't have to put too much money down and whatnot. Okay, so we have this model. We envision it. Okay, now what do you want to do? We want to have a company of just you and I, so we can do a deal and travel. Because Carlos and I thought every deal we're gonna do, we're gonna take a trip. We do 40, 50 deals a month. I don't think there's enough days in the month, to travel. So here we are. So now we're like, okay, we can't do that, right? So things start like changing. Obviously, you evolve in the business, and then you start, you build the business. Obviously, when you build a business with your own hands, you know every step of the business. That's why it's easy to know your business. And don't get me started, because I'm gonna start saying, I have people that want to start the business. They're like, haven't done even one deal, and the first thing they say, okay, so what VA do I need to hire? What do I need? Just tell me VAs I hire and they do the work for me, right? And I'm like, no, you don't do it like that. You need to do it yourself. You need to lead from the front. You can't just say, I need to hire someone and they'll do it for me.
Yeah,
yes,
I'm going to jump in. I just want to interrupt you because I think that's a great point.
Yes.
And I'll preface by saying I am not an attorney. I'm not a lawyer. But we've had masterminds here in the past where people are like, man, I've got my documents to get an LLC. I'm going to get my logo. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I got my business cards. And I'm like, well, time out. Do you have a contract? Do you have a deal? Do you have a lead? Do you have this? Well, no, I need to get all. No. It starts with the deal itself. And again, I'm not a lawyer, but you don't need an LLC to get a deal first. You need the deal, and then once that proves itself, then go down that rabbit hole of building a business. But again, I'm not.
You can literally write a contract on a toilet paper.
Right. Yeah, and something that I really like that you said, because when everyone's getting started, I think there's a lot of masterminds, people that have been in the business for several years that people forget they were first in all of those positions. So for me, myself, I told my husband, who's my partner now, I said, before we really hire out any position, I want to do it for at least 6 months. I want to be able to really, really know all the steps involved, what the pitfalls are, so that I can write that down and delegate it out. So we found ourselves moving through each part of the business and then delegating out. So I think that's a key point that a lot of people miss, is that do the work. That's why start small, master it, delegate, move on. I like that.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And guys, we own a few services, and I answer every call for the services. I don't know if I missed some calls, and I might have. For those services, for the first 6 to 8 months, that's my number. So before I delegate it, because I have enough recording, so I can teach someone else, and I have enough information where we actually revise our websites, revise everything that we have to actually have less workload on the delegated team.
But on that's a huge nugget as well, of spending 6 to 8 months to master it yourself. But you're also, like you just said, you're recording it, you're tracking data. That way you can actually apply it to somebody. Like, hey, here's your training manual right here. It's what I've been doing. Learn.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and it's something as simple as, for example, I curate a lot of my own lists. So I request actual raw data, and all I do is write down every step for every city that I do it in, and eventually translate that. So that's a key thing that people miss. They might do it for 6 to 8 months, but are you documenting it? If not, you might be not using your time as wisely.
Yeah.
Oh my God, documentation is everything.
Self-reflection, I don't do that.
Yeah, and I've been bad at it, but I need to get better. But that's a huge tip for anyone out there getting started.
So keep going on, man. Keep going.
Okay, so I lost rabbit holes.
Well, so we were
right?
talking about having the vision, right? And then you were talking about kind of building it out and the system. So we're going kind of step by step of kind of how you transition.
I think the next one is people,
building it out and systems kind of going hand in hand, because like you build the company and then you just need to picture where your company is at. Like every company every time we want to do something, it comes with a vision, right? Mm-hmm. And it goes from like a picture in your head, and you're like, okay, how am I gonna do this and like at a large scale? And I don't need you don't need 10 people to do that. You might need one person to do that. And then the way to do that is having systems, right? And in this age, you guys have a great software, we use your software, right? And it's phenomenal because in the states that you guys we use it, there is no such a thing. We can't really get enough information.
You know, because this business is all about paying the man. Just to give you an idea of what's happening in the next 30 to 90 days, we are actually about to release nationally. So you better start scaling up your business more because you're going to be in every state.
Oh, hey,
so are we.
All right, I'll put that on my notes. So I mean, we love your software. The platform is amazing, and you guys made it super friendly. I'm assuming you guys had some pilot testing at the beginning and before you do any of that.
We're still in that process, but let's get back to the next step. You know, we were talking about you doing 6 to 8 months, really analyzing data, tracking it, building the systems to teach.
Exactly.
What's after that?
So the best way is and it goes back to the same thing. Like when you're building a business and you're getting into a business, the best way of understanding your business is actually being upfront, right? Be the front and do everything that you expect someone else to do. So when you actually train them and when you actually expect them to do it, they actually can ask you a question, you know how to answer it.
Right.
You know, it'd be nice to do that. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't want to do that. And I get it. Like, I'm the guy that now thinks like, hey, don't ask how, ask who, right? But still, you still need to be coherent. You still need to understand what goes on in your business because you're going to build this business. This business is our baby, right? I don't even have kids, but this is my baby. I have a kid named National Cash Offer. And this is like right. This is, I don't know how to say, like, this is to people who don't know, like, I love this. I come to work. I don't even consider work. I come to the office. Like, I'm so happy to come to the office because I feel like some I leave late because I feel like this is my home. Right. And building this is probably, and to everybody who's watching this, guys, one of the most like exciting things about a business is the building process. You'll never get that. Like when you get your first deal, when you get like something the first time you do it, it's so like that like warm feeling that like it gets like less and less and less throughout time, but that feeling is so amazing.
I love that.
Always remember like the first deal, always remember the building process because like when I come up with some idea about the system, when I do it at nighttime and I come in the morning, team gather up. Look at this. It's so simple, by the way. It could be something so stupid and so simple, but I'm so excited that we implement it. That's going to save the team time. And they're so excited every time I do it. Like, oh, Sal, what do you have for us today? Did you do it? You know, so it's exciting.
What's funny is like I hear that and I'm like, what happens when the baby is not being nice or not being good? Do you have to like spank the baby?
Analogy gone wrong.
I don't know.
Analogy gone wrong.
Like, how do you spank your children?
We're going to rabbit hole, so I'm going to go into this rabbit hole. So we have, the office comes here at 9 o'clock. Some of them come earlier. Some of them they stay later. So we had a guy that comes here at 4 in the morning because they call the other states, you know. Oh. And so we had some people that are late a little bit and because we're a very friendly environment. And I'm like, guys, we need to be on time. What are we going to do about being on time? Okay, we're going to do this, and that. Okay, how about I give you an organizer? How about this and that? And then this is what happens. I'm like, guys, if you're going to be late again, I work with the Army, so we're going to do Army time. Hurry up and wait. So you guys are going to come here an hour earlier, right? And then everybody's going to pay for it, right? The whole team. Right. So I don't know if that's spanking the baby, but yes, that's the approach. That's the approach I would take, right?
Yeah, two things I really just want to kind of touch on that you kind of just brushed over a little bit was going, like a lot of people talk about going through this, and it's like when you consider whether you're taking it from the hobby to the business, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to go through all this. It's too much. I got to hire that out. But you said that's the fun in it, and I completely agree. It's like nobody's going to be able to take that from you when you are successful. Nobody can look at you and say, well, you don't know what it's like, because you do know what it's like. And I think that that's the blessing right there. And that's the entrepreneurial spirit that's going to take you through those harder times when you have to spank the baby, I guess, for lack of better terms. But anyway, the going through it is key. And I think having the right attitude of going through those growing pains is what's going to separate the people who grow and scale like you guys do and those that kind of stay in their little pockets. So I just wanted to point that out really quick.
And before we go to break, I think we're on the last step. The last step you said was repeat?
Yes. After delegating out?
After delegating it out, we rinse and repeat because you can always, so the rinse and repeat could be in a different business or it can be in the same business where you do it, multiply in different markets, right? Because our business is not just stuck in one market. A lot of people want to do it virtually. So what you do is the same exact idea, how you build it out in another market, like you find your boots on the ground, things like that. Obviously, there's a lot of moving parts and, you know, doing it virtually and how you do the spreadsheet. I do the zip codes, every zip code in the state. and then I do the temperature by color, and it depends on the color how hot the zip codes are, and then that's how we move on to a new market based on like going to zips.
Hold on. Let's
Oh,
repeat
that's
that
good.
because I
That's
think
good.
that's gold right there. Can you break that down a little bit more than instead of surface level? Maybe go a little bit deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. You sure you want to go on break?
Well, you know what? Yeah,
So-
I think you're right. Let's go on a break. We'll take a break, and that'll be the hook.
Okay.
That'll be the hook to keep them, right? So when we get back, we're
Okay.
going to keep going deeper and deeper into Sal's brain, and hopefully these lessons you should be applying into your business because these guys are just killing it across the country. So stick around. We'll be right back. Hope you're enjoying it. Make sure you heart, like, subscribe, all that stuff. The Propelio Academy, an all-in-one education resource for training in wholesales, subject to wraps, short sales, flips, rentals, BRRRR, property management, and more. Go to propelio.com/academy to get your scholarship today. Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at propelio.com. And we're back. So right before we went to break, we almost went down a rabbit hole, and it was just like, oh, wait a minute, we probably should take a break. And we're going to be talking about how Sal and Carlos determine how to go into the next market. And that's actually probably a better question. Who's the one that determines? Is it Carlos or is it Sal? Is the data guy or is it the, I'm not going to say Carlos is the feelings guy because I don't know that for sure. But yeah, who on your team determines which market you go next to? And also, let's get into what is the determining factor?
Well, so obviously for us, because we work like very close with each other, so we both collectively jump into a new market. But I mean, usually I would say the data would determine that is the best way rather than emotionally jumping into a new market. And obviously you can tell what's a good market because if you're networking with people and then like they're like, oh, this is this is what's happening. And, you know, keeping up with the trends, keeping up with the news and stuff like that, you know, what's a good market, what's not, and what people are doing in that backyard. Unfortunately, a lot of people jump into a new market just because it's an hour away from them or 2 hours away from them. I hate that model because there's no data supporting that, and that's just based on like the data of being lazy. That's it. Like, okay, I'm gonna jump in this market because it's close to me. Well, why? Is this market gonna bring you X amount? Is your dollar spent gonna bring you X amount? You know, every market is different, right? Our dollar spent here brings us an X amount here in Arizona, and then our dollar spent in other states brings us a different one. And that's why we go into a new market and they were like, okay, you know what, this is not worth it. Our dollar's not going as far as we wanted to. So we pull out from the market, deploy a new market. Obviously, trial and error helps, but data is key, right? You can use other people's data and you can use your own data. And in our company, which I learned this, I didn't know this. So I always thought, you know what, we can always get data from everywhere else, and then like bring it on and like deploy it. But then you fast start understanding that not everybody operates the same way you operate, right? You know, you probably get up from bed, both of you guys differently, right? Some of you jump from bed, some of you like put one leg down, the other one, and walk out, and you know, some of you have different routines. So, you know, there's no wrong and right, but there's different scenarios of you doing things. And the company, on a company level, I don't know, I keep talking. On a company level, you know, things operate differently based on your hires, based on your meetings, you know, based on everything that you implement, based on the new tools that you bring, based on the incentives that you give, there's a lot of moving parts, right? Based on the culture, based on your core values. So you get information from outside, and that's key. But there is something more important than that, keeping up with your own KPIs, which is key point indicators, are how your business performs based on those information that you actually gather up, right? So knowing your business based on your business performance is key, because you can say, you know, John Doe is closing 20 deals a month and he's in that market. I'm going to go into that market, and then you're closing 5 deals a month. You're like, what? Why is he doing that? Why? You know, obviously there's different moving parts, right? maybe John Doe is tracking his performance and applying that and retuning it weekly. That's how our company performs, because we tweak weekly. We get our reports every week and we apply it within our Monday meeting, and then we have our meeting in between. And okay, what are we going to do to deploy this strategy to make it better, right? Okay. And it could be as simple as, okay, when a lead comes in, the comps is going to be pulled immediately for them, right? If a lead comes in and the temperature is set to cold because certain channels, it pulls it for you and it gives you an offer range, so you don't have to waste as much time as a warm or hot lead, right? It could be small things that you tweak. It could be the smallest thing, but it can perform better, and then you track that information. Okay, are we doing better because we did this one thing? So based on that last week and now, this is what we did differently. Okay, now we're tracking that. Okay,
so Sal, practically then speaking, so that makes a lot of sense, right? Everybody's going to be looking at different things within their business and systematizing at different times and in different markets. So practically speaking, let's just speak from your company's perspective. What are, like, for example, what are the key performance indicators that you're tracking or that you first look at? And then how does that possibly evolve as you go through this process?
We track, I mean, we have a KPI tool that we built. It took us a month and a half to build, and it took our business like literally to the next level.
Okay.
So, and it could be as simple as a spreadsheet, a KPI spreadsheet that you build for your own business. Obviously, there's so many you can pull KPIs left and right, and there's too much KPIs and there's too little KPIs, right? You just need that soft spot, that good spot. So obviously, everything is going to be revenue driven, and we're in business to make money, right? So revenue driven is the first step that you would have, like how much money you spend, how much money you made, and how much your dollar. That's the first step you should look for. Okay. And then as you progress, I might not have to go into this. So for us, we have different marketing channels, right? So every marketing channel, I track when we get the lead, and this lead becomes we track how many times we followed up with them, how many times we called them, how many times we made attempted an offer, how many times we attempted contacts, things like that is tracked within the system. And then as the deal becomes the lead becomes a deal, we get a transaction report happening immediately. And it tells you when the lead was born, when the lead turned into a transaction, what the lead source is. And it gives us, and then when we dropped earnest money, when we when we marketed it, when we did a showing, when we assigned it, and when we closed it, and if it needed showing, did not need showing, and all those are tracked, and it do some calculation for you. It tells you, okay, so we'll know for what marketing channel it would be the fastest way to make your money back, right?
Well, you started. Now, if I can jump in real quick, Sal, but just so we don't get too far, you started with revenue generating. What is the simplest ROI? So if I spend $10,000, I spend $100,000 in a market, what money amount back are you looking for? Do you look at a cost per lead? Do you look at a cost per close? Are you looking at both? Is there some sort of mid-level stat that you're like, okay, check, we're staying there, or check, XXX, we're getting out? Like, what are those levels?
Yeah. So the first thing you look at is how many leads you need for a deal in that specific market, because obviously markets are different. So we look at how much each deal is costing us, the average deal cost per that market, and how much is deal average for that market. So let's say if we make $20,000 a deal, you make 5,000 here, you make 10,000, you make 15,000, 20,000, 100,000, and then you spread them out. You do the average for those deals, and obviously that happens real time. And you see how much your average cost per deal, and then obviously you see what's your X amount. The usual good return, what I know is 6X. So if you spend $1, you get 6 back. That's a really good return. Obviously you have other business expenses, other than that, your acquisition team and things like that. But there's a lot of angles you can look at this. You can look at it into just deal per marketing, how much it's going to cost you when you get the data, when you get the marketing, how much that deal costs you. Or you can look at it, okay, within the team members, how much is going to cost me with acquisition disposition percentages. So it depends how you operate your business, how you want to look at it.
So for you guys, at the end of the day, it always comes down to bandwidth. If I've got 10 acquisition guys, or I've got 100, you're limited by how many people are on your team at that moment in time. So if I'm in city A and I'm hitting that 6x average, but then I have city B and C and D that are maybe one is getting an 8x and one's getting us. At what point do you say, okay, we need to, even though this market is good, we need to go all in on a certain market? Or do you make that choice?
Exactly.
Like,
so we don't
that?
like completely take away the market. Obviously, we scale it down a little bit because you double down where the market that you're doing good at, and then the other market that you have that you're flourishing in. Obviously, you double. You're doing good in there, and you slow down in here. And the way we have our team members is round robin. So it's not like saying, okay, this guy is for that market, that's why the market is doing good. We try to do that at the beginning, and we were doubting ourselves. Is the guy not doing good? Is a Spanish speaker good with that market? Because we have a Spanish company called Dinero por mi Casa, and that one obviously comes to our Spanish speakers only, and it literally means cash for your house or cash for your home. And now we do everything round robin. So a lead comes in and it goes round robin to the next guy, to the next guy, to the next guy. Every lead comes in is gonna be very fair across the platform. And so the performance is as team, is not as individual. And throughout the Monday meetings, we have our team is held accountable if they hit their goals or not, things like that. I don't know if that was the question. Particularly,
the main question for me was because if you only have 10 guys, obviously you want to target in markets that are hopping, and then you can actually just double down. You could drop more marketing dollars, more just revenue in there, because if it's 6x, at some point there is a number where it's like, okay, if I put $100,000, I'm getting 600,000 out. If I put 200,000, am I getting 12,000 out? Or at what point does that number come down? I'm assuming y'all are tracking that. But the biggest question is if I'm in Phoenix, I'm in Dallas, and I'm in Tampa, but right now Phoenix is starting to get a little too competitive. Do you pull your guys from that and start going, okay, let's either A, find a new market, or let's double down in a Dallas and Tampa where it may or may not be doing better? That was my biggest question.
So pulling out from a market completely is that's like the last resort. We don't do that. Like if it's not broke, don't change it, right?
Okay.
So that's the model we go with. So
if it's hitting a baseline, you stick with it. But if something's really happened, you just find ways. Okay, we need to hire more, or we need to put more into it. And
because each seat in our company. So it starts with having a seat in the company. Each seat that we have costs an X amount of dollar. So these guys have to produce an X amount, and we can't blame them to not produce an X amount if the market is not, if the data is not supporting that, right? So we have to always sprinkle in the new markets and whatnot. So we don't just jump into a new market and it plummets, and we obviously expand strategically. And the way we do it, I was kind of before the break, we go into every zip code, we get every zip code. We actually download the whole county's data, so every single lead, and then we go from there. And we separate the zip codes if it's bad zip codes, if it's hot zip code, and it's all in a spreadsheet. I put the hot, obviously red, and then as the zip codes go colder and colder, the temperature goes to blue.
Is that
and then
based
if it's
on,
a bad,
sorry, is the hot and cold, what exactly is that based on in a zip code? Is it how many leads you're getting? Is it how many are returning? How many you're touching, buying?
That one is even before the leads. That's jumping into a new market. So we go to a website called United States zipcodes.org. It's a great website, and it gives you the zip code in there. It gives you the population, and then you open up another tab. You can use MLS, or you can use Propelio to see cash transactions. You can use there's many cash transactions that you can see, and then you see, okay, for each zip code, you write down how many people are there, and you write down how many cash transactions that pass 60, 90, and 3 months, 6 months, and nine months, and see the cash transactions there. And then you kind of just get a feel for that market. What are, obviously, the bigger they are, you get to see more flips, but the more flips, if it's even a small zip code and it has a lot of flips, that's an upcoming neighborhood. So you put that up, in the temperature, and then so that's how we do it. Carlos and I literally sit next to each other, and I open up one page, he opens up another. Okay, well, this one looks like this one looks like this. Obviously, I can do it on my own, but it's better to do it when your partner's there, so we both have the understanding why we're expanding there, why we're doing this.
Okay, very cool. I think that's some good advice there. I've never heard anyone break it down like that. So that's in terms of expanding into the market that you're looking at. Okay, so then you're going to start pulling lists and start marketing to whatever's the hottest. Is that correct?
Exactly. So our Podio tracks like per market, and it tracks per marketing channel, like the lead, the source channel, right? So when we're looking at our KPIs, we look at those indicators like, okay, so what's the one that gave us the most revenue, and what do we spend in front of it? So mail, a lot of people think mail is expensive, but we're very strategic with our mail. So we don't spend as much to get as much back. Obviously, the hottest thing is online PPC, and then mail was great for us. And because you can spend $1 million and make $1.1 million, and then you're not successful at that. You're making $100,000. That's not really sustainable. Mm-hmm. So you have to know your numbers. You have to know, obviously, the more granular you get, the more.
What's funny I love about real estate is 100,000 on a million is still 10%, which is great in any other industry, but in our industry, it's kind of like meh.
Well, maybe the work involved. Like, there's a lot more work involved for our leads, but that's funny.
Anyway, sorry for interrupting.
No, it's funny. It is like that because it's such a, because our marketing can be so expensive. I mean, we can spend $100,000 in a month in marketing and then get nothing back because we did something wrong, right? And there you go. There's your $100,000 that you were hoping to get at the end of the year, right? So that's why it's obviously when you scale, you have to scale strategically, and this is part of the scaling. So you have to know your numbers, right? If you don't, and I'm gonna say, guys, if you don't know your numbers, you don't own a business, right? Like it's just facts. If I don't know my numbers, I don't own a business. I'm just I'm just here. I'm hanging out.
So speaking of numbers, sorry, you had an and.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was saying, because earlier we were talking about those KPIs, and we hit really early on about the color coding of the zip codes, and the ROI, and you talked about the 6x. What are some other KPIs and quote unquote numbers that you're looking at as the analytics data guy in your company?
Well, we look at what marketing channel gets us the fastest deals, obviously.
The fastest.
Because time is money as well. So yeah, you may get X amount from this lead, but it took a year to convert, right? So what's the fastest one that converts faster? So obviously people online is the fastest ones, but obviously it goes down the list, and we look at those things so we can market strategically based on that as well, because you want to make sure the revenue keeps coming. You don't want to have a good month and next month is low, and then 2 months after that a good month, and you want to keep it consistent. And this is what we're looking for. We're not looking for this. We're not looking for. I mean, obviously everyone wants this, but that maybe happens when you first jump in. But this is what we're looking for. And
that's huge. And I don't know where I heard this the other day, but it might have been on an interview. It might have been on radio. I just can't remember. But
it's all blurring.
Like it is blur. But no company has ever failed from growing too slowly. Companies grow from growing too fast or not growing at all. But if you just you're incrementally growing, you're not failing. You're growing.
That honestly, yeah, you said something really big there, and I hope people caught it, and I just want to repeat it, is that there were two things you looked at. I think sometimes we weigh a little too heavily on how much the cost or the lead costs, but we don't look at the time, and that is a big deal, because that is a big gap, right? Everybody always says if you stop your marketing, your pipeline dries, right? Because you're paying attention to closing those deals, and you stop marketing, and that consistency breaks, and that's a huge downfall for a lot of investors.
I wanted to jump on that as well. Is like the speed factor is a huge indicator. At what point do you have, because I know speed, but we all know in this business that certain leads may have a lot more meat. Like a short sale may have a ton of meat, but it might take 3 years to get. Mm-hmm. What is the sweet spot of time and money amount? Or do you track that data? It seems like you probably do. Like, what is that sweet spot for you? Like, what day and what money amount?
It's people, data, speed, right? That's we always talk about this, people, data, speed. And the soft spot obviously is going to happen when you master that market. If you're jumping into a new market, obviously you're going to keep tracking your data, because each market is different, right? And then that depends on your, the team members' performance. So obviously, the faster we like to have the fastest leads. Obviously, the PPC leads, the online leads are the fastest ones, and and other marketing channels might take a year or longer. Sometimes, the average, I believe, for cold callers, it's 90 days average to close a deal. Mm-hmm. So that's cold calling, right? So if this is just the general one, I mean, you might be an amazing caller and you close your deal after a month or whatever. You get lucky every time, so you're blessed. You have the hot hands. So just keep going at that.
Well, there's also the type of lead, right, Sal? So it's one thing in terms of what kind of marketing, but it's also the type of lead, right? So you have your channel, direct mail, cold calling, et cetera. But a lot of times that cold calling lead is 90 days because it's not as urgent, right? They're not maybe as distressed. Maybe it's something in probate, right? So there has to be some kind of a differentiation there too. Just wanted to point that out.
So the way we do it in our in here, what we do is we have selling reasons. We added a selling reason, and what we do is we compile those based on every phone call, because we have multiple phone calls with the client. So would it be the follow-up manager, the acquisition manager, when they first get the call, they want to know, when they get a call that comes in and they're like, the seller would tell them, okay, what's going on, why you're selling. There's always a why, there's always a reason, and we're very, very big in our company where we talk 80, like we have them talk 80% of the time, like just about them, and then 20% or 10% even business, and that usually works the best because we truly care about our clients, we truly care about their transaction, because it is a unique transaction per deal.
That right there,
the business model is the same.
That right there is fascinating to me, because I know because your business is primarily virtual. I don't know what percentage. I don't know if you even look at a house anymore. But like we always tell people, or people in our industry, we know it's rapport. Like it seems like we need to have you and Carlos on a third time to talk about building rapport over a phone, because building rapport face to face, I'm not gonna say is easy, but that's a completely different ball game than trying to build rapport on a phone. So and I know that's not on topic, but I just want to highlight that if y'all are obviously doing that, kudos to you guys, because that 90-10 or 80-20 rule of talk about them and only a little bit about the house on the phone just seems massive to me.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, when you're talking to someone for like half an hour, they're not going to want to talk to someone else, tell them the same exact thing another half an hour.
That is true.
That means they really like you, right? They're going to do business with you. And I mean, I think we're good at that here in our company. And this is what maybe gives us the edge, but we can ask certain questions, or we can find out, like, okay, they have a death in the family, they have maybe a financial, they're moving maybe. So, and then we stack those reasons, right? And as those reasons stack up, we know which lead is priority and which one is not. So they go down the list, right? And which lead have we made offer to, which one we haven't made an offer to, which one have we made contact to. Obviously, the views for our company is like, they start from top and they go down the list, and they have their own tasks they need to follow up on. But from like far away, you see what's hot, what's not, if you do these things properly. Obviously it takes more time to gather information like that, but then now you know your client, you know what they're doing. So now okay, this is more urgent. You're not letting the data that you gather up from like list source, whatever, dictate what kind of lead this is. You're letting them explain what their situation to you, dictate what their situation is going to be next,
so just
rather
to
than
clarify,
the data.
Sorry, just to clarify. So you're saying that you actually have a metric called selling reason that you track for every single lead, and you stack those. So you have your type of lead that a lot of people stack, but you're talking as granular as, there's that word you like, as granular as a selling reason, right? Did I hear that right?
Absolutely, selling reasons within the company. So obviously, if you see more than 3 selling reasons, obviously, and you have the hot ones, right? You have the inherited ones, and like those are hotter ones. So you can you go ahead and hit those leads, more frequently, because usually they call us. We have a lot of calls that come in, and like we just talk to them and we build the report there, and then we have that in there. But we know sometimes they're in the situation. How many of us has been in a situation where we don't know exactly what's going on, but someone else from the outside can see what's going on because we're in it, we're in the mix, we can't really tell. And I mean, we're human. This is a part of our brain, the way we operate. Just block certain things. But maybe we know something that can help them without them knowing it. So we actually take this information. We're like, okay, well, we can tell them, okay, here you go. We can hire an attorney for you. We'll pay it out of our pocket. We can actually help if the problem is you're relocating. Okay, don't worry. We can find a moving company for you. We'll go ahead and take care of that for you, right? The more information you know, the more that's more ammunition to use, right? To help you throughout the deal and to actually make their life a lot easier. If you truly care about the transaction, you truly care about the person that you're doing a transaction with, and therefore, it becomes smooth sailing. If you're dealing with someone that they hate being on the phone with you because, they're treating it as just a transaction, which is like a surprise. A house is very sentimental to people. It's a big purchase or a big transaction. So it is very personal to them. So if you're treating it just as business, I don't think that's going to be as pleasant when you're dealing with them throughout the transaction and everything else. But I think if you treat it as personal to them because it is personal, I think that will go a long way, and your life would be a lot easier.
So we need to take another break, Sal, and when we come back, I want to really wrap up everything. Put a bow on this conversation. We do have several comments, questions, and whatnot coming through YouTube and Facebook. So I want to hit as many of those as possible as well. I want to talk about your mastermind. I want to talk about your group. So much to talk about and in so little time. So everybody stick around. If you do have some final questions, we're going to rapid fire those when we get back. So stick around for the final segment and looking forward to it. The Propelio Academy, an all-in-one education resource for training in wholesales, subject to wraps, short sales, flips, rentals, BRRRR, property management, and more. Go to propelio.com/academy to get your scholarship today. Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at propelio.com. Well, thanks again, everybody, for sticking around. Today's episode has been obviously nugget bombs galore, just like Carlos was last week. So if you haven't seen last week's episode with Carlos, I highly recommend watching the one you just watched over again, and then go back and watch Carlos's. And it's so many nuggets. Before we finish up, I just want to say, hey, Propelio.com, if you've never checked out our software, do so. If you're looking for off-market leads, if you're looking for an investor-friendly website, and if you're looking for comps in your area, check out Propelio.com. We are releasing in the next 60 or 30 to 90 days access to national lists. So, tune in, stick around, make sure you stay aware of that. Casey, what kind of business are you doing?
What kind of business am I doing? I would like to buy some properties in the DFW area. So if you have anything, please contact me, Casey at Round Grove Properties.
And then Sal, let's get some plugs in for you, and then because I want to talk about everything you got going, and then I want to wrap up with the conversation and with the questions.
Obviously we have the All in Freedom coming up in June. So allinfreedom.com, you can go ahead. We have 50, I think, Take the Leap. Use the coupon Take the Leap. We have 50 people that we're taking with discounts for that. So I would say take advantage of that.
What is the elevator pitch for All in Freedom?
All in Freedom. So if you're like doing 1, 2, 3 deals and you want to just scale it up a little bit more, you want to get your foot through the door. All in Freedom is all about that, getting you started toward the path where you're actually scaling up, rather than being in a plateau, and giving you the general information, giving you the cutting edge into scaling it into, even if it's a one-man show, scaling it into doing more deals with more time efficiently, and obviously great networking events like that. At Momentum, we do events called Momentum. Those ones are for higher scale, where we're you want to take the business to from 1 to 10 million plus. Those ones are usually for big companies and whatnot. And if you want to open up a company, you make it, from a one-man show, two-man show to a bigger company. Obviously, these events are great. They're always fun to meet new people. So I always look forward to it.
So, Casey, do you have any questions?
I do. I have one question because I think you hit it really well on the head when you're talking about how to find the KPIs, where to start, what to look for. I have a question about that. If you're getting that granular to where you're really kind of tracking, it takes time, you know what you're converting, do you think doing that insulates you to some degree from market shifts in different markets? So are you a little bit less prone to kind of crashing with when the markets crash? Do you find that it helps you navigate those situations better?
It does actually. If you're tracking it, on weekly basis, you're actually knowing that market where it's headed to, because you can compare it to last week, to the week before, the week before that. I would be stretched too thin if I do that. We have people that do that for us. So the system tracks it and we plug it in, and we have our CFO looking at things like that. We have our VAs and we have our admin that plug in some numbers that they need to. And we just, we get the reports and we're like, okay, well, guys, this is working good. We'll have a meeting, a high level meeting, like, well, let's double down on that market. Let's scale down from this market. And obviously, okay, let's look at the new market. This market seems to be, good, and we'll jump into that. But I think it would help a lot more rather than hurts if you're tracking your numbers.
Absolutely.
So as far as just putting a bow on this whole conversation, what do you think is the most important thing in terms of analytics, in terms of data, in terms of KPIs, like in order to really start considering like the systems and scaling and just really expanding? What are the key metrics, I should say, and what's the bow for this whole conversation?
I would say, like I said earlier, the key metrics you look for is how many leads that you get per deal, how much it costs you at the end of the day. But again, I think that's with data, and how much money driven. I mean, it's revenue driven. You see how much it costs you within time and how much you got back. But obviously, time is money, so you have to take that in consideration. I think the biggest thing I would say, like having a team. And if I jump on a phone right now, I can walk and show you what the office would look like. I don't know if people would want to see that.
I think everybody wants to see that. I think everybody wants to see that. I just don't think we have time. So I do want. Okay. We'll have to do that in a future episode. I really want to, because again, I'm loving the hell out of you guys. So let's hit some questions, man. So I had to get a question out of YouTube land, Mr. Nath. And I think that's channel 7 there, Tommy. Much love. What are key systems you should have in place in your closing 1 to 3 deals a month that will allow for opportunities to scale flexibly? Sorry.
Scale flexibly.
Did I read that accurately or bad?
Did that make sense?
So can you repeat the question real quick?
What are the key systems you should have in place if you're closing 1 to 3 deals a month that will allow for opportunities to scale flexibly?
Obviously, if you have a notebook, keep that for now, but use a system. Preferably in our company, we use Propelio. We have Hercules, Investor Automation Hercules, and that automates everything for us. So Propelio is, because I'm a systems guy, I'm going to say this first, the Propelio. I would say having CallRail, because you want to track your campaigns and what campaigns you're going to, if you're doing 3 deals and you want to scale to 6 deals, you're going to need to track those metrics and track what a better way of tracking your campaigns without having CallRail, because CallRail comes in, it tracks the campaign that you sent the mailer to or whatever it was, and it tracks that, and it tells you how much revenue that marketing channel generate for you. So Propelio, I would say CallRail. As far as disposition, I love disposition. I have a strategy that I use, and Putney uses that, and we make it minimum at $1 million extra on the projected profit, because the way we disposition strategies, and we kind of do a soft auction style, or we have a website, a disposition website, and people submit offers and we get back to them after 48 hours. And there's another tool that we like to use for disposition. It's called Landglide. And it's pretty much just makes your life a lot easier. You can look at zip codes. You can look at the property, and then you see who owns that property, those properties around you, if it's LLCs or whatnot. I think you can always call those LLCs and say, I have a property next door, and now you made your 1 deal might be into 2 deals. So you're making $10,000, you make $15,000, $20,000 by being a little bit more innovative with your disposition. I can talk about disposition for like 4 hours straight. So
we'll get you on another one. Yeah, that is a whole nother topic that we might get you back on. But we have another question from Menson that asks, when wholesaling a tenant-occupied property, can we apply the ARV method to give a cash offer to the seller or not? Do you have another way of looking at that?
So we want to, you're saying an offer being sent out immediately from like an automated ARV? Is that what they're asking?
Well, yeah. So basically, right, when we're looking at a property, we usually tend to wholesale. We look at its after repair value, right? Well, if there's a tenant in place, do you look at it the same way in terms of how you make an offer, or do you calculate it some other way?
We do. We actually do. It depends on the market, by the way. If it's a hot market, we don't care. We'll go ahead and take that. We'll take the house down if we have to, or we'll do the closing a little longer, right? So that gives us enough time to give them the 30-day notice and whatnot. So, and obviously, if the tenant is being a hard, or they're being, easy, and it doesn't affect our purchase price as much as you would think. It depends on the market you're in, because if you're in a hot market, it does not matter, because people will buy that even when the tenant is there, and they'll deal with it. So believe it or not, we've done that many times where the tenant is there. The new buyer deals with that, or the new buyer might even want to do it as a rental, because you never know. Some buyers, believe it or not, they like to buy and hold, and if a tenant is in place for many years, they will pay you more money because there is a tenant in there. So it's a matter of finding the right buyer and the market you're in.
So, rapid fire, the last few. Shock riddles. How many total employees does National Cash Offer have?
I don't know exactly, but I would say around 30 something.
Okay.
Immediate, I would say, yeah.
Pretty big. So somebody asked, do you think newbies should focus only on wholesaling, or should they also learn about creative financing deals?
Well, obviously, wholesaling is the easiest way for a newbie because it's the fastest way. So I'm gonna try to speed this up. Being creative is creating that extra revenue. So it'd be just the icing on top. Mm-hmm. Right. So I would do both, but start with wholesaling, and then as you get more knowledge into the transaction, be more creative.
Here's some love. Johnny Moore was saying, "Great info, Sal. This man is a genius. Shorten the sales cycle and track everything."
Awesome.
Absolutely. I love Johnny, man.
Is this last one we're doing?
Man.
I
think we have.
This is the last one.
Yeah, one more question. So, if single property, then ARV is good to use when constructing your offer. You can use cap rate if planning to keep. Oh, he's responding. I'm sorry.
Oh. Well,
we had somebody responding saying that if it's a single property, then ARV is good to use, when you're looking at an offer, and you can use cap rate, if you're planning on doing a different strategy.
It's hard to do questions, and
sorry,
I don't really read.
Just a comment.
So I just want to say thank you so much, Sal, for doing this. Last week is so great. This week is so great. I can't wait for future opportunities where Propelio and National Cash Offer can synergize some more. From my perspective. It's always cool to see partnerships and have different personalities, because it's so obvious that Carlos has his thing and you've got your thing, and how they mesh. And I just can't wait to be in the same room with you guys and just kind of mastermind it out. So I'm
looking forward to it.
Yeah. So final thoughts on my part is just if you're not a data guy, you got to partner with a data guy and really really start tracking everything you do.
One thing I just really like to kind of point out, when you said it's about people, data, and speed, that speed aspect and the time it takes was a huge lesson for me. That's not something that I really paid much attention to. So if you're out there making deals and you want to get to a place of consistency, listen to Sal, maybe get some tips from him, watch him, follow him, and maybe you might find your company grow a little bit faster. So.
And Sal, what are your final thoughts?
I'll say this, guys. I've been in your shoes before. To the audience, if you're trying to scale up, just put the work and find the right people. And you know what? Working at nighttime might work for you or not, but always try to understand the business a little bit more than leaving it on someone else. That always helps me out and to scale.
Mm-hmm. And real quick, let's talk about All in Freedom one more time. Just where can they get more information? Where can they sign up? What are those dates?
It's literally allinfreedom.com, ALLIN freedom.com. And the tickets are right there. And they can just book it from there.
Awesome.
And
if you're in DFW and you want to do deals.
Yeah, and if we're looking to scale too, so if you want to do deals in DFW, hit me up, guys. And watch this episode again. There was a lot of really key information. Sal, you're such a wealth of information. I think we blew over a lot of it. So Watch again, everybody, and continue to ask questions and comments, share, and we can continue to respond.
And once again, Propelio.com, if you're looking for off-market lead lists, we got you covered. We're actually about to blow the doors off the leads that we offer right now, not in a bad way, but in a good way. We're about to add national lists and really just going, oh my God, what is those Propelio guys doing? So if you need leads, if you need an investor-friendly website, if you need access to true and most comps, check out Propelio.com. 7-day free trial, no credit card needed. And then, if you don't subscribe to us, subscribe. If you don't follow us. We drop content like this every single day. So check it out. Sal.
Follow these guys.
Yeah. Sal, once again, thank you so much for being here. And if you continue to have questions, drop them below. Also, subtle plug for the Friday show, Propelio.com/rewind. If you want notes from all the shows, we will email that out weekly. Our 5 o'clock Central on Fridays, we actually do a recap show of the entire week. So if you want the notes, easy, kid style, just go to that website, Propelio.com/rewind, drop your email, and we'll email that out. That's just a value add for us. All right, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sal.
See you, Sal. Thank you so much, man.
Propelio TV is sponsored by Noble Mortgage and Investments, CreativeCashflow.com, and Lifeonaire.
Hey everybody, I'm Ryan with Propelio. If you like what you saw, please subscribe. Turn on those notifications and stick around for more. We have tons of content like this all over our channel. So if you want to learn more about real estate investing, stick around, watch Propelio TV, and we'll see you later.